This is Night Jams, Free Flow's podcast about art and culture. I'm your host, John Thomas Pryor. Today I'm talking with Elle Beyer, one of the founding members and owners of Free Flow. Let's get right into it. Cue the opener. Corey, what are we doing today?
It's looking pretty good. Thinking about we changed some stuff
Elon
up,
has
you know?
to fight his worst enemy, himself.
Yeah! Too much power!
Under
building. What compelled you to do this?
Well, you see, there's this guy named Corey, and he was like, hey, you should do it. And I was like, no. And then I did. Why didn't I do it?
It's got kind of a weird structure for a movie because it was originally shot as a TV pilot.
I'm gonna do it with a little bit more speed. I came in and there's a camera and I was like, ah. This is gonna be a quality podcast.
Quality. Only quality.
Doing whatever you do throughout the day.
Yeah, like it doesn't take much to listen to something.
Yeah,
you know.
just like, in a room with, it's like almost like you're eavesdropping too,
Yeah.
So it's got kind of like this, I don't know, but it's like, it's eavesdropping in a way where it's not being rude. People are having a conversation, but they're inviting you to eavesdrop, on their conversation.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, hey, listen to the conversation we're talking about.
Do you know the origin of that word? Eavesdrop?
No, I don't know.
Eavesdrop, because it's like in King Henry VIII's castle, there's so much gossip that they literally had like little figures carved in the eaves. And they were called eavesdroppers because they were always listening. Because there was always...
Oh, that's funny.
Like, there was, no room that was safe in his castle.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Someone was always listening and, would tell another person. And, so if you're... I saw a documentary all about his castle. It was really neat. Because they had these, little funny, people looking down. It's like... Oh.
We're watching you. I'm listening. That's funny. Yeah.
Oh. So this is the long-awaited... Elle podcast.
Long awaited.
I feel like every conversation we have that's longer than a minute is podcast worthy because we get into it. We get deep quick.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are seeking that. They're some people are just really seeking I just need someone to let's just go deep with this idea real fast for a sec here and. Let's just skip the weather talk. Let's skip how was the drive here, and just let's discuss the finer natures of, deeper philosophy of marketing and fashion or whatever we're all about that day.
For sure. I'm hoping no, there's a little bit of pressure. I'm do I need to be deep today?
well, that's great. A little pressure, a little risk.
That's good.
Gets you in the flow state.
Yes.
There you go.
It's always good to take risks.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, while we were moving the gym, you described a new training method you're getting into to me.
Yeah.
And you have a cool name for it. Start with that.
I call it my temple week. So I'm actually in my temple week this week. Unintentionally. I did not plan it. It just sort of happened. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just making this week my temple week. And I'm calling it that because it's sort of like an ode to the time I was training at the Shaolin temple. And, I feel like every great artist in some form always does some sort of immersive training. If it's not regular, it's definitely something they've done in their life, or at least used to, really kind of get them to the next level to help them overcome plateaus or to just essentially immerse their entire focus and become essentially laser focused on whatever they're trying to master. And so because I'm a mother of 4 children and a wife, and I operate Free Flow, which has 30 plus employees, and just my life is sort of inundated with a lot of, I wouldn't say distractions is not the right word, but my priorities are sort of spread out a lot, and my family's my priority, my kids are my priority, sleep is a priority, and just self-care stuff, and and essentially, the day-to-day stuff with running a business and running a home, things come up, even though we've done a good job automating a lot of the processes that can we can phase out of, no problem. But
I liked how one time you were describing free flow like a child.
Oh yeah.
And you were like, oh, it's out of its infant stage.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah, a company is like a child. Like at first it's like this really needy, it's like a needy baby that just constantly needs your attention. And then you treat it like a baby because like it's brand new and you're like, this is, you know, your brainchild, you know,
and that's so funny because I feel like young people are very cautious about families, you know, and like you know, making sure you have like something set up before you start a family.
For sure.
But people are also incredibly gung-ho about business.
Yes.
At least like from maybe that's probably a sample bias because I read a lot of like, you know, entrepreneur stuff, and that's all targeted at young people. So I have this idea that young people are very interested in doing entrepreneur stuff.
I would say it's definitely our generation, or your generation, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not technically a millennial, I'm a zennial, which is like, I don't know, they made up a new thing, a new term. I used to be a millennial. I was like the older generation millennial.
It's fracturing. They're like subdividing.
Yeah, they're subdividing because I was like alive and, you know, in my adolescence when like analog sort of switched over to digital. So I saw that transition.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's definitely, you know, our generation tends to be a lot more entrepreneurial and, you know, we're not as process oriented as like previous generations. We're more like into sort of like disrupting, you know, the norms and kind of breaking down the systems and creating new systems that are ultra efficient. And if it's not efficient, it drives us insane. So and so I think that's part of the reason why we're so entrepreneurial is because we just are into making and creating newer and more efficient systems.
Yeah, but I feel like people don't like get the weight of like if you're starting a business, that's the same as starting a family. It's like totally. If not, I feel like because like you can just ditch your business like way faster than you could. If you see the big microphones, Matt had some problems with microphones too. Like it's a crucial part of the kit. Good microphones or headphones, not microphones.
Yeah, you're right. It is like starting a family. You know, it's like it has its cycles where it's in its infancy cycle. You kind of have like a honeymoon phase, which is like, you know, the whole like the preparation and the planning and the visualization where you're just like, this cannot fail. This is foolproof. You know, this is meant to be.
I have the key to this particular market.
I was born for this.
Yeah, only I can see this window that's happening right now.
That's exactly what you go through. You just go through this like phase of just, I know this will work, and you go through this planning phase, which is basically the wedding. You know, it's like your kind of like your business plan or your business map, I should call it, because that's what it's being called nowadays. Yeah. But it's like the business map. I have the treasure map. Everyone, like, look at here. It's like I have the answers, and essentially, like when you start a business, because you're solving a problem. You know, you see a problem in the marketplace or that you feel like you can solve, and then you build a roadmap to solving that problem and getting the word out to other people about your, you know, ultimate genius, you know, so discovering this, you know, new path.
Free Flow definitely wasn't your first business.
No, it was not.
Yeah. But like, what was the because those early days of Free Flow, you know, I was still in college and I was like involved and I kind of saw it happen, but like I wasn't as like involved maybe with like, you know, I didn't get all the behind the scenes and stuff. So it's like, how do you think Free Flow, what problem were we solving then? And what are we trying to solve now that we're like 6 years into this?
That's
like,
a great question. So I would say, like, my husband and I never intended on ever opening an academy. That was something that just sort of came about due to a lot of like peer pressure. I'll call it peer pressure, but in a good way. I had a career
saying like,
you should open
you're so good at this,
or you should open a studio or whatever. And we were just like, before we opened Free Flow, my husband and I spent 10 years in LA working in Hollywood as, actors and stunt performers. And we traveled a lot. We actually waited 4 years before we started a family. So, but essentially, like when the babies started coming, and I had my first child, and then I became pregnant with twins, and I was like, ugh. And there's just like a lot of things about LA that I was like, I don't really want to raise my family here. And so we packed up, and we actually owned a condo down there, and we sold it, and then was able to put a down payment on a home up here, which really like changed the quality of life for us, because down in LA it's just, it's like you can't really live in a nice area unless you're have like some hookup or something.
Yeah.
You've been there for a while, or you just have millions of dollars and you can afford like a decent home in suburbia down there. But anyway, so we moved up here. My husband went to law school, and he was also working for his brother's insurance brokerage or insurance firm, and then I started 2 online businesses. And but we were always like teaching out of our garage, like kung fu classes to like the neighborhood kids.
It's funny, like when like you guys first came out to Parkour Jam,
Mm-hmm.
like, I didn't like quite know what to make you. I just because like so many people would like come out to that, and I was like, okay, that's cool. It's like here's this like married couple just like doing parkour, awesome, that's sweet. And then you had some big Halloween thing going on.
Yeah, like the show. Yeah, we put on for our neighborhood.
Like you had like a whole like dojo in your garage. Like it was like you click the garage door button and it's like floor, like the whole floor is mats and like crazy dragon stuff on the walls and like dummies and kung fu like stuff everywhere. And it's like, whoa, like these guys mean business if that's their garage. Because like this is a fun thought. I always feel like a garage is like, it's like a room it's like an extra room in a house that you can do whatever you want with. Like you can park your car in there, you can store stuff in there, or you can like do whatever else you want.
Right.
It's like a miscellaneous room, catch-all room. And so if you have some sort of like dream or vision you're going towards, normally the garage takes it over. So
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and so to see like the whole garage, like this really professional looking kind of space, I was like, wow, they're legit. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, we had fun with that, and we did that in LA too. We had a 2-bedroom condo with a garage, and the garage was also the dojo. And,
that's awesome.
So we would teach kids that were just the neighbor kids. They would see us training, and they'd come around and be like, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "We're training. You want to train? You want to learn some stuff?" And that was always exciting for them, And so we just like always did that, and so we would have regulars coming every Wednesday night, and just we would be training, and then so our friends and the people that were that we were training, they just kept saying, you guys should open a school, and we're like, oh no, it's really not really our focus to have a school. It's really tough to survive in this it's just really tough to survive. Plus, I had 3 babies in diapers, and I was like, I am not ready to take on more risks. And then we had a 4th child, and then I had 3 babies in diapers for 3 years because of and that was not intentional. It just happened that way. But
I take it that's not recommended.
No,
if you can swing it.
I mean, my husband would come home and say, "What did you do today?" I was like, "Oh, I changed I think on average about 27 diapers today." It was about that. I lost count. So I kind of. And it was just one of those things that was pretty crazy. But it was, and then we started training with the parkour community, and we were used to training in stunt gyms down in LA, so we were used to people 60, 70 years old are like, they're training at these stunt gyms,
Really?
The people that have been in, it was like, it was awesome and super inspiring. But when we moved up here, it was kind of like taboo for, if you were over 21, to be training at a gymnastics gym.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like this weird, you don't belong here. This is for kids. And I was like, I get that. I mean, I get that there's not a lot of adults that move dynamically up in this area, but you guys should try it out. And so I scoured. I looked everywhere for, a gymnastics gym that would, teach adult classes. And I found one, and they taught one adult class. So I was like, sweet. So I signed up for it. And and I went to the class, and then I figured as a member Oh, someone's jamming out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I figured as a member of this gym that I would have open gym privileges because they had open gym every Saturday. And so I went to their open gym. I brought all 4 of my kids and my husband, and we paid for the open gym. And I was out on the floor, and within 5 minutes, some 16-year-old girl or whatever, like, walks up to me, taps me on the shoulder, like, all, like, tap, 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 you know, in that way. And I turn around, and I'm like, and she's like, excuse me, but you need to get off the floor. And I was like, oh, I'm a member here. I'm signed up for classes. She's like, you're not hearing me. They, like, point, like, doing this whole finger, like, you know, thing to my kids. She's like, they can be here, but you are too old, and you need to go sit in the bleachers with the other parents. And I'm like, whoa, I feel like there's age discrimination happening right now. And I'm like, well, I think I'll just take my whole team here, you know, kids and everybody, and I think we'll just sort of skedaddle. And so I was like, that was not a fun experience, you know. I was like, first of all, don't tell me how to move my body. And, you know, that was like my first thought. And I was like, and so I actually, before we left, I, you know, wanted to call the owner, because I was like, you need to call your supervisor. I'm like, because I'm a member here, and I feel like I should have the same privileges as any other member here at this gym. I'm like, you guys have an adult class, and if I'm signed up for the adult class, I think I should have the same, like, privileges of participating in open gym. And she was like, got all fussy, you know, and she was already fussy at that point, but she went and got her boss on the phone, and I talked to her boss, and her boss was like, yeah, I'm really sorry, but, you know, it's liability, and, you know, our insurance doesn't cover anyone over 21 except for in a class setting. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you need to change that. So I was like, well, I know there's plenty of gyms that serve all ages and adults, so you guys, it's really, you know, your problem, you know?
Yeah, I didn't know you had you knew that was going to work, because down in LA there's stunt gyms.
Oh yeah, it's like,
it's all age. Yeah,
it's like people that are like, oh no, basically if they have the kind of philosophy where you cannot move dynamically after the age of 21, then you're training them wrong. You're like, okay, by the time you're 21, you're either going to be so broken and thrashed that you can't move in this way anymore. It's like, well, maybe you should rethink your programming, you know, and rethink the way that you're training people, because ultimately, like, you should be able to move. I mean, maybe you're not taking as many risks, you know, but still, I mean, people essentially should be able to move dynamically throughout their entire life. They shouldn't be confined to, you know, when I look at treadmills and, you know, the stationary bikes, I think those belong in hospitals, you know, for rehab. You know, that's what their true purpose is. Their true purpose is not for getting people into shape. Their true purpose is to rehabilitate, you know, injuries and issues.
Yeah, it's like low impact.
Yeah, and
like,
you know, and it's
mild audio.
And it's repetitive too. So it's like when you're trying to, like, rebuild something or rehab something just like sort of these, you know, sort of low impact repetitive exercises are good, but if you want to be a fit human being that can move in a diversified way and have you know, a diverse form and function for a variety of things, not just like utility but also beauty and fun, you know, and for your own entertainment, then I think like moving diverse, you know, being able to move in all sorts of ways, be able to take on different types of loads, whether it's pushing, pulling, jumping, leaping, twisting, turning, you know, balancing on small, you know, on rails or slack lines, or, you know, just general monkeying around, and and then also, like, I don't know, just doing what humans do, which is like run, jump, play, climb, and fiddle around. We hit things, we break things, you know, we're designed to do that stuff. So yeah, sorry, I went on a tangent.
No, it's good. No, like it made me think about, I just finished reading Tony Hawk's book, and while I was reading that, it was his 50th birthday, and he dropped a video of like him landing 50 tricks at age 50.
That's awesome.
And like he even pulled off a 750 or 720.
I didn't realize he's 50.
Yeah,
he like
and because like
doesn't look it
right. Yeah. And like the big move he's known for is like the 900. So when he pops out of the half pipe and spins like 900 degrees. He didn't do that move, but he did like the step lower than that, which is like the 720. And it's a good video.
Wow.
And
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, and I saw a podcast with him, kind of explaining like the behind the scenes of that video, and it was like because he wore the same, he's in the same outfit the whole day. Or through the whole video, so you just think he like busted this out like in one day. And you're like, man, this guy's amazing still at 50, but apparently he like was filming that for like 2 weeks. And he just had like that same change of clothes just like stashed under his ramp or something. And like sometimes there was like kids there to like, oh my gosh, we're gonna hang out with Tony Hawk on a big ramp. And he's like, yeah, could you just like go in this corner and like not be in the frame while I do 2 tricks? It was pretty funny. But And even he mentioned on how like he can't pull off tricks like some of his old tricks like consistently, but he skates different now.
Yeah,
and, like he can still do it.
Yep.
And that mindset of like, okay, this just opens up a new like creative box for me to play in.
Exactly.
Instead of like where it's like I'm not just going to be destroying myself with impact and stuff and being super aggressive.
Yeah. And it's also like the application, you know, are you doing it for your fun and entertainment, or are you like getting ready for a competition, or are you trying to innovate some kind of new, you know, method, you know, just kind of, you know, I think as movers, and I guess we're all like biomechanists in some form or another.
And shakers, movers and shakers.
Movers and shakers. We're always trying to figure out ways to, I guess, enhance performance, you know, naturally in our realm, but you know, through food and through training and through you know, all things that, you know, we can find. You know.
So when your goal to open Free Flow, was going to that gym, is that what pushed you over the edge to go like, I'm going to commit to this school idea people are always telling me to do? It
was definitely, contributed. It was like, man, I was like, we really need a place to like go train at. And then when we were training actually with you guys at the parkour community, you guys were always talking about, man, someone needs to open a gym. You know, you guys were always saying that because you guys were like getting kicked out of spots. And I myself experienced that too. I was like, that sucks. Like people like, we're not doing anything but just like moving our bodies, you know, in the way that we want to move it. We're not destroying property or anything like that. We're just moving the way we want to in this space. And then like when people would be like, get out of here, you know, you guys are a bad example or whatever, I was like, man, there does need to be a space where we can just move the way we want to move, you know, take risks, you know, and just like be left alone, you know. It's like leave us alone. And seriously. And so I, you know, so the idea started, you know, I guess percolating at that point. And my experience in China, just training with the Shaolin monks, it's like actually a really odd story on how we ended up there. We didn't end up there like how most people end up at the training at the Shaolin monastery. Usually they pay for like tuition and to like go there for like a certain amount of time. But we actually got cast on a TV show in China. It's so funny. I know, it's a really funny story. Like we got cast on a TV show, and we were like the 18 foreigners chosen from around the world to compete against China's top athletes in a TV show called K-Star. And K-Star is like China's version of American Idol, but instead of singing, you do Kung Fu. And when we got chosen to go...
And the we is you and Lon.
Well, yeah, myself and my husband. When we got picked, and we were like the Kung Fu couple, you know, we had like characters to play, but, you know, being actually married and everything. And we had no idea how popular the show was until we got off the plane, and there was like a crowd of people waiting for us. I mean, the show hadn't even been shot yet, and there's people like screaming at us, like holding signs, and we're like all looking behind us like, is there like some celebrity behind? Like, what's going on? Like, people are like screaming at us, and they were like, K-Star, and we're like, well, they're saying our show, I don't know, like, and then we were all very confused. We were like, I don't know, something's going on. We got onto this bus. They charter us through Hong Kong and then through Shenzhen. And when we get to Shenzhen, which is like China's TV capital, there's like this huge billboard with our show on it. And I was like, oh, holy crap, that's the show we're going to be on. And the translator's like, yeah. And I was like, is this a popular show or something? He's like, second most watched show in China, 280 million viewership. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I was like, so those people at the airport, that was all for us? They're like, yeah. I was like, how the heck do they know, like we're coming? Like, how would they know that? Like, oh, they follow it online, you know. It's like there's a whole cult following where they
that's
like
so
they're like watching the website to see who they chose for the next season. And I was like, wow, that's like a dedicated fan base. So anyways, we train, and so basically this part of the show, they brought us to the Shaolin temple to train and live with the Shaolin monks. And so we trained from like, you know, 5 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock in the evening. That's their schedule. And then after dinner, we had to go into a 6-hour rehearsal for like this big show that we're putting on with like one of China's like really, like one of their really well-known choreographers. And we got to train with Jet Li's coach.
That's
and,
cool.
Yeah, he was super like very like you did not want to like not do what he said because he would like hit you and stuff. So,
Whoa.
so it was like scary. But the monks would also like hit you and smack you around. Like if you didn't hold your posture for like, they had these training things where they like we had to hold our posture for 2 hours, and if we dropped our shoulders, they would smack us with like bamboo and just like hit us. But I mean, we were just like everyone's still in good spirits because it's the Shaolin temple.
Yeah.
You know? We're just grateful for the time that we're going to be there and training with these phenomenal athletes that are just amazing. But anyways, training with China's athletes, we got to train with their top athletes from all over. So we trained with the ones that were coming from their top kung fu schools, including Wudang Mountain, which is basically as like their prestige is like up there with the Shaolin monks, only they do swords.
Wow.
And there's kind of like a rivalry between them too.
Really?
Yeah. And then there was the dance schools, and then like all the different kung fu academies, and then there was the Beijing opera schools, which is so Jackie Chan is a Beijing opera school prodigy. And I was just like really impressed with the students that were coming out of the Beijing opera schools, because they were not only phenomenal athletes, but they were amazing artists. They were like singers and dancers. And I was like, how do you get good at so many things? These guys are going to win. Like, they're going to take it. Holy cow. Like, they're like so amazing. But
so in K-Star, did you have to like, not just like spar them, but do you have to like do a full blown, do you have to like sing at them and stuff, and have like song competitions?
So yeah.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
It was like a full blown.
Oh yeah, it was like a variety show. Like you had to do like, not only you had to do you had to do forms, you had to do weapons, you had to do warrior training. I had to, oh my gosh, you had to climb this mountain with 10,000 stairs. You had to do the carrying these, like, literally, like, they don't carry, you know, in movies how they show, like, you carrying sticks. Those are not sticks. Those are trees. They actually, like, cut down trees and bundle them, and they stick it on your shoulders, and you have to, like...
There's, like, art prints with, like, the guys with big, sticks on their shoulders.
Yeah, those are not sticks. Those are trees. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I almost died during that challenge.
Are they like leg size? Like how
I would say they're like, my leg size, you know, and like your thigh size.
Yeah.
But there's like, you know, eight or nine of them just bundled, and they're not like light like bamboo. Like when they put that on my shoulders, I got like dizzy. I was like, I cannot even carry this.
Can you remember if the wood was still wet?
It was not wet. Okay. No, it was dry.
Okay.
But I remember they had us hold a horse dance for over half an hour, and they tried to like break us. That was like part of it. It was like pretty nuts. It was the craziest training I ever experienced. But for whatever reason, like being at the Shaolin Temple, they are like so inspiring that your willpower completely kicks in, because somehow deep down within you, you just want to impress them. You're like, but, you know, because they're just, I mean, because the whole time that they're training you, they're also like saying like really deep philosophical stuff that's really inspiring. Like it's kind of like having a very motivational coach like with you, like talking in your ear while you're like obviously suffering, but they're telling you that you can do it, and you believe them. You're just like, dang, man, you guys are like, I don't know, they're very inspiring. But so
monks are pretty positive.
Oh yeah, they're totally positive. Like they're very they talk about the body, its systems while you're training with them. They're talking about like, you know, the energy that flows through you, and they're talking about all these things while you're training with them. And then they'll tell you, you know, this part is, you know, gonna feel like the worst, but you know, but they say it like way more poetic, and they're like, but you know, it'll pass, and then you'll be stronger for it. They basically say that kind of stuff, but in the most poetic way that, I mean, I can't even really say it. And then they also feed you really well. The food, I guess they do like, they make all these like kind of stews made out of like these roots that they grow, and they're delicious. And it's all vegetarian, and I mean, and they say it makes you powerful, you know, and I did feel powerful, like when I was eating the food. I was like, yeah, I wish I like had these recipes, you know. But anyways, like training with them and training with the Beijing Opera School students, I essentially thought, well, you know, these Beijing Opera School students, they were not only phenomenal athletes and amazing artists. I sort of like started looking at their model, you know. I was like, what do they do? Like, why are they so good at so many things? And basically, Beijing Opera Schools teach 4 fundamental disciplines, which is martial arts, dance, music, and acting. But if you break that down, it's basically movement and expression. So, and I kind of just sort of pondered that when I was there. I was like, man, that's kind of like their approach to fitness and recreation. I feel like that would really serve the U.S. really well. You know, I wish I grew up in a Beijing Opera School.
Yeah. But
how do you sell Beijing Opera School to an American market? Well, you don't really. So when
we'd have a very hard time getting over the opera.
Exactly.
Like,
people
opera is like,
they want to know what that is. It's not familiar enough.
And that's interesting, because when opera was out, when it was the big how to do, people looked at it as like the ultimate art form, because you had the costuming and the acting and the directing and the music.
Exactly.
And it was like, it's like it's how we view like big budget movies today.
Yeah.
And like these crazy shows that are coming out on Netflix, it's like, it's got everything.
Oh, it's their operas.
You know? Yeah. And it's like, it's that coming
action,
together of
the drama,
of all the great art that we can do, and it's all neatly bundled in this narrative.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So an opera school, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like with that as a framework. But
so when we were training, like with you guys, the parkour guys, the community, and then training people out of our garage, sort of the light bulb went off in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, we could do a Beijing Opera School, but we would identify as a parkour gym, but keep it diversified, where we would offer the martial arts and the dance and the tumbling. And I wanted to do something twofold too, where it was like an infrastructure for developing talent, and then we would also create content. And so I saw it being sort of like an entertainment media thing as well. So it was like this whole vision that just kind of went off in my head, and I was like, oh yeah, like I would love to do something like that. That would be awesome. And it'd be something that I wish I had when I was a kid, growing up, that didn't actually exist. So in terms of backing up to your question about what problem were we solving, definitely solving the problem of having, a space where we could dynamically move the way we wanted, and it could be for a place where all ages were welcome. And we just sort of like, that doesn't exist here in suburbia. Well, it didn't exist then. But it exists now. And also having the unlimited open gym, I thought that was something that even didn't exist in LA. In LA, you have to pay for open gym. And one of the things I know training is like, you just don't get good if you don't practice, and if you have to pay each and every time you need to go to the space to practice, then, what it does is kind of create like a, only people that can afford it can, pay
to play.
Yeah, pay to play. And I was like, well, I want it to be something that everybody could afford. And basically it's your commitment to your training basically determines on how good you're going to get, And So with all of our packages, even if you just only take one class a week, you still get access to unlimited open gym, which I thought was important, for the community, was having that sort of access where they could come and train every day if they want to. And I felt like that was also really important for developing talent, because having that accessibility, that resource where they can come and be a part of the community and meet other people and make friends with people that also like to train and move dynamically would only be a positive thing, in my opinion. So that was the problem that we solved then. In terms of the problem that we're solving now.
Getting to the second part of the question.
Getting to the second part of the question. I believe that we need to create jobs for artists and athletes. I think there's a problem that we just don't have enough opportunities, at least not in this area. Even LA, there's no matter what you do, whatever industry, you're always going to have to hustle and hustle hard. But I think our technology now really empowers the artist. So I was in film school. That was another thing I did, is I went to film school. While I was in film school, I graduated the year before I graduated, the first DSLR cameras came out. And then the year that I graduated, HD technology came out. And it was just amazing, because we went from having to spend $60 per minute for 16 millimeter film, and with all the lab costs as well as having to develop them, to being able to shoot unlimited content on
So let's rewind there. $60 a minute.
$60 a minute for 16 millimeter film. That's not even the good stuff. That's 35 millimeters, the industry standard. 16 millimeters, what students make their stuff on.
What was the industry standard cost? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, it's I don't know. It was hundreds. Hundreds.
I know. Mike's mentioned the IMAX price. It's ridiculous. It's $1 million a minute. That's
it's crazy. And it was just impossible for indie artists to make anything. It was a student going to make a feature film. That just sounds crazy. You're not going to make a feature film. Where are you going to get the money to do that? And so we made shorts, obviously, but when digital technology came out, started taking over, where you had digital cameras that could shoot at 24 frames per second, and we had amazing software that was coming out that was allowing us to make real movies. It was so exciting. Everybody was just super excited, except for some of the purist cinematographers.
Sure.
Some of them were just oh no, film will never go away. But the rest of us were very excited. And Mike's a cinematographer, and he was obviously very excited about the digital age. And so when that came, I just was oh yeah, we could totally. We could, I always had the vision of creating a movie production studio, making martial arts movies and action movies, and I call it the Bruce Lee model, where he taught, but he also made movies, because he felt that was the most powerful way he could share his passion for the martial arts. And I agree, stories are powerful and they enrich our culture. So, and I love movies. I've been making movies since I was 15. So I was I definitely want to do that. So when we initially opened Free Flow, the plan was to get our programming basically to a point where I felt really confident that we could take an average Joe who's never worked out in their life to a professional athlete within a period of several years. And so when we got, after a few years of just really focused on developing programming and Corey developing, the teacher training, and the certification for training the parkour coaches, and myself working with, Coach Jess and Coach Stephanie, and, all the talent that has come through here and just helped us really develop and fine tune training curriculums. Last year we opened launched our stunt and film program, or we actually call it Media Academy, which is our the opportunity to open, create jobs for artists and athletes.
Yeah, that's that making content side.
Yeah, making content. Yeah. So it's still in its infancy. That side is still in its infancy, but it's coming together, and we're going to make some cool movies. And we made a movie last year with our students, and it got accepted to the Action on Film Festival, and ended up from there getting international distribution, and it's available on. We got a deal for Vietnam, a 3-year deal in Vietnam. And
really?
Yeah. So internet, television, and cinema over there, and then we also got a deal on Amazon Prime. So the movie's up there for anybody to watch. And essentially the way it works is the sales that we generate from Amazon and from the different deals that we've gotten goes back to fund either a sequel or another movie where we can, I call it, honorably paying the creators and the people who are a part of the process of making this. So at some point I'd like to be making 10 to 12 movies per year, but right now right now it's
have you checked out Hit Record's model at all?
I have. Yeah.
Like, because I got to actually work on one of those projects. And
you did?
And I totally got paid for it too.
Oh, sweet.
And it was really cool to see like how, because that's like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's like side project.
Yep.
It's kind of his main project at the moment.
Yeah.
But like, it was really cool to see like how casual they were and how transparent they were with like where the funds were going. Mm-hmm. And like they literally had the spreadsheet broken down of like what you contributed, what got into the final show, and how much money you got. And you could look at that if you really wanted to make money on Hit Record. You could look at those and be like, okay, it looked like the people who actually edited the stuff made the most, because they were like and like each project, because like I was on the TV show, and like the show's contributed a bunch of clips. Basically, it's a 30-minute show of like 5-minute clips or 10-minute clips, and so like a 10-minute clip got so much of a budget, but if that had like 1,000 people contribute, that budget had to be delineated over that 1,000 people. But if only 5 people worked on something that had a smaller budget, like you get paid more because like not as many people worked on it. So it was really interesting to see like how they were managing their funds. And I don't know, I just feel like I learned a lot just from like quickly breezing through their little spreadsheets they posted on Hit Record. I was like, wow, that's really cool.
That's
like,
super
I've
cool.
never
I'll have to
seen...
look at the spreadsheets. I'm familiar with the model, but I haven't like gone that deep into looking at. I could probably learn a lot and maybe even borrow some of those ideas.
Yeah, if you had an account on Hit Record, everything's available.
Oh, that's cool.
Like you can download any art on Hit Record and remix it and re-upload it.
I do have an account. I just haven't like really used it. It's so that's cool. Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
And like I feel like they have a similar approach, but the thing with Hit Record is like it's all, you have to contribute all through like some sort of like you can't actually come together in a group, unless like you somehow coordinate with the people online and meet up and do a thing. But normally it's like, this person's drawing this thing and this person's making some music and then someone else kind of smashes it together, and you're all very independent. And I think where Free Flow could do like one step better is because like everyone's in the same room with each other. You can all like kind of play off each other. Yeah. And I think that's also a very cool model. But like still has that like open source spirit of like we're just creators making content. And, we had an idea and we thought we'd try to crank it out in a week. We're all pretty pumped about this.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I know that there's going to be a lot more opportunities that come our way because we're creating content, and I'm excited to see, what's going to come up. Right now we're developing, our own IP. Like a lot of the IP is just stuff that like I wrote in college that I'm like totally cool with. Like, let's just have the kids like, make this movie, it'll be great, and my husband also, he has IP of his own, and Mike as well has IP of his own.
What's IP stand for?
Intellectual property.
Oh, okay.
So movie scripts and like any like basically stuff that you've written or created over the years that, and so I spent all while I was in college, that's the creative flow is there, so I was, writing movie scripts, and I was more focused on like the acting and the producing side of things, but not so much writing. But there was a lot of stories that I just got really passionate about, especially when I was, hardcore into training, and there was just stories, like a lot of martial arts lore that, that's just really fun stories that, we can totally make movies about, but either nobody has, or if they did, it just, it was done a long time ago. It could totally be redone, and so, and Mike's got a lot of his own IP again, and then Lon as well. So we have kind of like a stash of it that we're just ready to sort of like hand over to students. But this next phase, we're developing a parkour movie, and we're also developing a martial arts musical. It's a kung musical.
Musical.
And so it should be
confusion.
Yeah. So we want to make stuff that's gonna just entertain us, make us laugh, but also entertain an audience, but also be filled with lots of movement, because ultimately we also want to inspire people to move dynamically. We're this multidisciplinary gym, we're a performance gym, and you're probably, if you're coming in and taking classes, you might not see this whole movie side. Yeah, you won't really.
Yeah, and so and to get into that side of it, that's all the Media Academy. That's all about. Yeah, that's all the Media Academy.
It's a seasonal program. It's based on like the IP that we have available that's ready to be created. We just wrapped our stunt and film camp, which is it's part of Media Academy, but it's a different experience in that the students develop their own IP, and they shoot and direct everything. The Media Academy, with our feature film Immortal Fists and also Land of Wogue, we had the kids shoot and help with directing and do all sorts of things, but the focus is a little different. So our seasonal, I guess, when we're making a feature film or making a TV pilot, where the focus is to create a polished product so that it'll create opportunities for all of us. So whereas like the camp is really, it's a camp, so the kids are in a writing session, and they're creating their IP the first day, and then they're also learning all the basics to stunt work, and then they're casting their projects, and they're editing their own projects, and it's just a different experience.
Yeah.
So, and it's a different focus. So, and both of them are, great. And
that's cool. So it's like the first Media Academy, it was all about Immortal Fist.
Yeah, it was about we were actually making a TV pilot.
Yeah.
And so it's more like, I guess you would say, results based, and let's try to make something really cool that's like a proof of concept that will create jobs and opportunities for ourselves. That's kind of more the focus of it. Whereas like stunt and film camp is more like, we're just gonna, you're gonna create your own IP. Whereas
it's more like a workshop.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah, it's like
you're gonna walk away with some sort of like little movie that stars you. And you wrote,
exactly. You wrote,
has some
it's kind of like the difference between, like, if you were to do a play, it's like say you were to do Les Miserables or something, you are developing somebody else's IP, or you're
I'm gonna have to work on my deadlifts if I'm gonna do that movie. That's what that movie taught me, was how important deadlifts are for singing. Hugh Jackman, man, mad deadlifts.
Yeah. So, but it's like, all right, well, if you're gonna develop somebody else's IP, it's a different focus. You're putting on the show. It's like you got to put together the show. Whereas like you're doing a workshop, you're gonna come away with your own thing that you have, that you could put on your shelf or something.
And it's almost it's like it was more like, okay, I learned this thing, and the final product was more like, that's just a byproduct of learning it.
Yes.
And now I get to go take that knowledge and make something I actually want to make.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's not necessarily about the little souvenir at the end of the workshop.
Exactly.
Like, because I've taken artist workshops before, and Doug teaches a lot of it, and it's the thing by the end is more of exercise. It's an exercise.
Yeah.
It's not really like something to show off.
Exactly.
Like, hey, this is my this is my elephant head I made in a workshop. And it's like, not really. No. Yeah. It's like you drew some lines. You did like a little figure eight, and like you did like a rope.
Exactly.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Exercise versus like production, like what you put on. You know, it's still a production either way. You know, the movies actually that the kids came up with in stunt film camp were hilarious. Like, I had so much fun working with the kids. They're so much fun. Like, they did such a great job. I was thoroughly entertained with the ideas that they came up with, and they were really creative, and they just really got into it. And I love that when they're so passionate and just gung-ho. Either they're gung-ho about the stunts, or they're gung-ho about the filmmaking, or they're gung-ho about the special effects makeup. You know, I think that's super exciting when you have a group of artists that are all collaborating, and each of them have a different focus, but we're all making, you know, a group project together, you know? So that's awesome. Yeah.
No, that's super cool. I had somewhere to go with. So something I've been thinking about a lot. Every once in a while, I kind of have a daydream of like, giving like a talk at like a college or something, or I like going back to Sarah College and be like, hey, this is what I've learned so far out of like being on my own. It's some advice to like, you're about to get out of college. Here's some things. And something I keep going back to is like how fortunate I was to find a business that valued me as an artist and like as a creative, and like the fact that you could throw me, because like what an artist can do is like they can handle a problem that doesn't have a solution, and they can make one.
Yes.
And that's like, because countless times like you came to me, it was like, I've got this problem, and I'm like, well, let's think about that for a second. And then I kind of like draw and disappear for a second, come back, it's like, I've got an idea that I can fix it. And it's like you're like over the moon, because you're like, I thought that was not going to be able to be solved.
Exactly.
And I'm like, well, cool. And like it took a second to realize like what I was doing and why that was valuable.
Yeah, it's true. Like, you've brought so much to the table in terms of like you've been able to solve and so many of our abstract problems. You know, it's like this is a problem or an issue that people aren't really trained for. You know, it's just somebody. But we need like a maker or somebody that can create our solution, you know, or create our system that needs to be there. But it's not stuff that they necessarily teach in college. You know, it's more like process oriented stuff that you learn in college and or in school in general. So, but when you get out in the real world, it's just filled with all these problems that you have to solve.
Yeah, and I know like not every artist is going to be able to thrive in that situation, but like what would be a tip to like if you're trying to start a business and you feel like you need that like artist there to like help you solve that problem, like how do you find that person, and like what's some attributes to look for?
I feel like you gotta like stretch yourself as like an artist yourself. You know, you've got to it's kind of like the law of attraction. Like if you become the person that you want to attract, you know, or exhibit attributes of the people or the type of people that you're trying to attract. I think that is one of the major tips, because in business, when you're thinking about the demographic that you want to target, you basically have to become what you need to become to attract the people that you envision coming to your space. So
kind of goes back to acting in a lot of ways.
Yeah. It's like you've got to create a space, you got to create a narrative, you got to create a mindset or like a culture. You have to create a culture that would attract the type of person that you're looking for. So when we originally like sort of envisioned Free Flow, we envisioned it being this eclectic, diverse community of movers and artists. So we had to create a space and create a vibe and a culture that would attract those kind of people. And I knew for sure we needed to not be like crazy OCD about, just making everything super shiny, It's like, you know what I mean? It's you want it to have sort of like a gritty kind of feel to it, where this place is like pretty hardcore. This is like this is not.
No, I forgot who I was talking to, but he was saying like I just wouldn't trust a gym if it wasn't in some dirty warehouse. It was really funny.
Right? Yeah.
It was,
exactly. Like the best gyms I trained at.
Grit.
Yeah. The best gyms I trained at were dusty, dirty, places that were, sort of like the hole in the wall. No one else knew about them, but they had the best trainers. They had the best, the best sort of vibe,
Yeah.
They attracted all the, the best athletes. And I mean, the Shaolin Temple is beautiful, but I mean, those guys are learning all their stuff on, dirt, dirt.
Yeah.
They're out in the elements. And, we've created, in my mind, I think we've created a beautiful space, and we do a good job of keeping it clean. And I am a little OCD about controlling like bacteria.
Definitely.
I'm not too concerned about like dust and little things like that. If there's like little bits of foam or whatever that's on the tumbling floor, it's like that stuff doesn't bother me. But we are, we're not like, we definitely have like a really chill vibe, and when we want chill people, and ultimately like artists, like they need a place where they don't feel like super high strung and stressed out, because it takes a lot of patience to create art.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to focus but not be like, stressed out or like high strung about a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. So you see them, you have the families that come in that are a great fit, and then you have the families that are not a great fit. And I tell that to them right away. If I don't think they're a great fit, I'll tell them. I'll be like, you know what, we're probably not the best fit for you. And they're usually like, oh, what? They're not used to hearing that, but I'm just like, seriously, like if you're really worried about it, your child is probably going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're like a helicopter mom and you just gotta hover, and your child like actually doesn't really understand how to assess risk, then we are definitely not the place, for that family unit. It's like, I don't really, we're definitely more of a place for, very active families, or families that want to become active, and but they've got to be okay with taking risks in a controlled environment, because this is a controlled environment, but it's not a padded room, and it's like that on purpose. We're not gonna hover over you and tell you that it's our fault when you fall and hurt yourself. Like, you are responsible for your own body, and it's really, you're accountable for your own actions, and we have rules set in place to control our environment and keep people safe. And our role as trainers is to keep you safe, but also,
and it's like, that's why we spent 15 minutes earlier working on shoulder rolls.
Yes.
It's because later in that class we were going to be doing something that involved a fall, and
exactly,
you're all ready to go now.
And that's why we have a new member orientation, and we have rules in place in the gym, like no jumping off of anything taller than you. No, it's like certain things that we have in place because we want to keep the space safe for people to enjoy their movement, but also we want it to be a place where people can progress safely and be able to enjoy moving dynamically throughout their whole life. So longevity is definitely I would say, more of our mission than anything. I'm okay with playing the long game. But also, like, again, we're not a padded room. We're a place where you can take risks, in a controlled environment. And we want to draw people that are okay with taking risks. And art is all about taking risks. So I guess that would be my tip too, is like, be willing to take risks, to attract somebody, to attract an artist. You gotta be bold. You have to take risks. We get people all the time that are like, your insurance must be through the roof, oh, the liability on this place. And I'm like, well, going back to that gymnastics gym, that wouldn't serve me, because I was quote unquote too old to do this kind of stuff. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna attract the customers that believe that they can continue moving in this way. And we've got some amazing clients. I love our clients. They're awesome. And they're inspiring too to me. And
when you have a family of, it's like, like mom, dad, 2 daughters around the same age, and that they don't actually stay, because I've had them in my class a couple times, but they don't stay in one class. It's like they come at random times to get different coaches on purpose, and it's really funny. And they're just this really cute family, and they just all train together, and they just take parkour classes, and it cracks me up. They probably take all the classes, honestly, because if they're dodging different times for different coaches.
We are kind of like that one-stop shop, you know, for families. We did target like large families, or just like families with like multiple kids, because that was one of the problems I also saw, just being a mom of 4 kids myself, was like the chauffeur kind of lifestyle of the mom and dad having to cart their kids from here to there, and it was basically consumed their entire life, where you know, once school was out, they were just driving their kids back and forth across town to all their activities. And I'm like, wow, like the kind of toll that takes on the parents, you know, the time sitting in the car, and when they could be moving dynamically, you know, or when they could be also spending valuable time with their child, because that's the other thing, like being at an all-age gym, they can take classes with their kids, you know, they can, you know, spend that time with their kids. Their kids can be active and in a sport, learning a movement discipline of, you know, where they can, you know, work towards self-mastery, but they can do that alongside their parents. They can do that alongside their siblings. They can essentially, we're kind of like reinforcing that family unit, and because Free Flow is like a family. We're a family. We're a community, and I felt that was also important. And another problem we were solving was we were reinforcing the family unit. We were reinforcing just like that kind of one-stop shop, you know, saving you time and getting you where you need to be, which is moving and taking care of yourself, and but also spending like quality time with the ones you love.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Like I wasn't thinking it from that family side, and that makes a lot of sense.
It's definitely when you're in it, when you're in the thick of things, you know, you just are like, wow, there's a lot of time sort of just wasted driving back and forth to all the little activities and stuff, which are also important, you know. You're like, these activities are really important, they're really enriching, but I mean, if you can find a place where there's something for everyone, and you can all be together and like make memories together and have fun together, it's like, well, I just think that's more efficient.
No, that's awesome. So it seems like, you know, businesses are a great analogy. You know, you can think of businesses like having kids, and then like having like your business also a family. Is there anything the family metaphor can't tackle? It seems like that's a very, very dynamic metaphor for the at least the last few ideas you've been thinking about and just said.
I don't know. I'm really just kind of into family, I guess. I look at all of you guys. I look at all of the employees and staff as family. You know, we're pack animals. You know, humans are pack animals, and it's like we take care of our own. You know, this is like when you're in the pack, you take care of the pack, and so that's kind of like how I see it. And I'm also, I guess, when I think about myself, you know, when I visualize myself, I think of myself as like a modern day gladiator, you know, a modern day like warrior. And so I'm not like the kind of warrior that goes out and like, you know, fights wars and battles, and I'm not, you know, like law enforcement where they're going out and like protecting the peace and doing that. And but I do feel like, you know, I'm trying to, you know, protect and reinforce like community, you know, and basically protect our way of life, you know, and I think part of that is like so much of the human experience, and so you can find so much joy in the human experience by with movement and doing that with others, you know, and connecting with others. You know, one of the, my fondest memories in LA, really, making movies was part of it, but actually one of the things that I loved most about making movies was just being with the people and us making stuff together, and it was so fun, and it was like magic, you know, like you're just with these like your buddies, you know, with your friends, and you're just making stuff and you're doing things. And you know, when I'm training out in the parks, when I was training with my friends out in the parks, I had, you know, my youngest son in, you know, there too, in a little playpen, and he was just like a little infant, but he would be like watching us train, and you know, he'd like do the moves too, and you know, and he was just like a little baby. And I just, those are some of my fondest memories, is just being with my people, you know. And that's kind of how I see
mentally when you were saying that. I imagined a little or that scene in the old Ninja Turtles where like the guy's doing the kung fu and then the little Splinter is like copying him.
Exactly.
That's the image that appeared in my mind when you were describing.
Yeah, exactly.
Little kid copying you doing moves.
And Free Flow's our tribe, you know. It's my tribe, and you know, these are our people, and we got to take care of our people.
And it's biking more, and like just being out in the street and being like more exposed. Like I thought more about this idea. It wasn't quite my idea. It's like this idea of like a walled city. How like think of like a medieval city. You got like the market, and you've got all the houses, and then you got the big castle keep, and you got government and the king, and it's like these like nested layers, and like, you know, more important people in the community have like a house, and like, and because they have their own space, they can kind of like do what they want in that space, and things are kind of like chopped up, and you've got all these little individual spaces, and the walled city is all about like separating you from like nature, and so it's like that like bringing order to chaos, but like seeing that with like how far can you take that idea of like give me like my space, you know. It's like once you're in a car, it's like that's your own space, like you're kind of checked out from like what's happening around you,
right?
Because you're in your magic car, and then just being like exposed to that. And like parkour is like that. It's like when you're out there and you're on a school and you're just like training on the wall, you know, it's like no one can really, like anyone can tell you to leave, you know, everyone's seeing you, you're like totally exposed. I remember like running around barefoot, and like a group, like we're all barefoot. It's like obviously we're doing something. And like a bunch of young kids are barefoot. That's interesting. And like people like yell stuff at us. And like it was just super weird. And it was like we couldn't, because like we didn't, and I think some of that was like part of parkour. It still is to me. It's like going out and like just like seeing how to use a space that's not designed for that thing you're doing. And like find a line through it. And like climb over it and like kind of I don't know, bring some personality back to this like personalityless space.
Oh, for sure. I think parkour is revolutionary in terms of not just the movement science behind it, but the philosophy, and I think it's like evolution. You know, it's like, guys, you know, it's like you need to do parkour to be an evolved being, you know.
That's super funny.
It's like that's actually what I saw first when because we were actually in LA when the whole like sort of parkour movement started to get really popular, and I'm like, oh man, that's amazing, you know. I loved it, and I wanted to get more involved with the community down there, but I was so focused on my martial arts training, and I felt like I couldn't do both, like, you know, and really super focus you know, on both of them. So I chose to focus on martial arts, and but when we moved up here, I was so excited that there was a parkour community that you guys created, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's out of all the places, like there's a parkour community here, and I knew for sure, like, we got to train with those people. And so I remember, I remember I enrolled my son in a local parkour class, and Corey was teaching it.
Oh, excellent!
And, and Corey, I don't know, he was so young, he just looked like a little teenager, and he was like in his, I think he was like 20 or 21 or something, but he looks like he was like 16 or something. But I was like sitting there in the bleachers, like watching him teach. I was like, I just really want to ask him if they train, you know, and if they do, like, I want to like see if we can be invited. But I waited like 3 weeks to work up the courage. Whoa. Yeah, it took like 3 weeks for me to work up the courage to ask. And then finally, after he was like wrapping up class, I was like, hey, I was like, Corey, right? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I'm Han's mom. And he's like, yeah, I know. And I was like, yeah, so do you guys like train, you know, like parkour, like outside? like regularly? I just sort of like,
just super
just
question.
and he just like smiled and he was like, yeah, we do. And I was like, do you think maybe, my husband and I could like join you, or are we like too old? So I like said it like that. and he just like started laughing and he was like, no, he's like, we'd love to have you guys come out. I was like, sweet. I was like, all right, so like when you guys do it? And he's like, oh, we do it at Bella Vista High School, and and is that Rancho Cordova, or where is that?
That'd be Fair Oaks.
Fair Oaks. He's like, yeah, we do that every Sunday. And so I was like, sweet. And then I basically hit him up every day, like on Facebook Messenger, like from that day till Sunday, like just to make sure like it was still like going on and stuff.
Yeah, that's so funny.
And I'm just like, yeah, okay, because I was so excited about it. And I think it was 7 months after I had Zen, and I was just like really out of shape. But I was so excited about it. And when we showed up to BV, Corey was there and Victor was there, and I think just like other handful of a few kids. I think maybe Doug was there. I don't think you were there. I didn't meet you till a few weeks later, because I remember you guys were doing stride precisions in the parking lot, and that's actually when I met you. And but I remember just being super excited that you guys were like so welcoming, and Corey was like really welcoming to us, and I was like, man, these guys are awesome. And we just really, there was definitely a connection there. And I'm so grateful that had we not chosen to go and like, if I hadn't worked up the courage, if I was just like, I'm just going to sink into the shadows and just be a suburban mom.
Yeah, I think everyone in that group felt that way. Like everyone was like, I don't know what would have happened if I didn't meet these guys. Yeah. And you know what? Yeah, that'd be a worthy investigation of like how did that actually get started? Because I know, because I learned about that because Doug and me were kind of phasing out of sword fighting, and Victor posted this video of him doing parkour around BV, and it was to the "I've Got a Lovely Bunch of Coconuts" song, which is like. Which actually Victor hates that song.
Oh, really?
But it matched like the tone and just like the just playfulness of the way he moves like so well, and like because he's super good.
Oh yeah.
And like we saw this and we're like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah.
And they'll teach you this for free if you just show up. And Doug's like, yeah, I think I know this guy, and it's like I think he was in my same class.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and. Doug knew his name was Victor, and like he was like kind of acquaintances. And it's like, okay, like I got an in, like we're going. And we showed up, and I remember I was like wearing hiking boots the first day, and like it was but like everyone was super pumped. But like if we got like a bad wall run, like one, and we could climb up, and everyone's like like. Freaking out, like, oh gosh, that's amazing! Like, wow, that's so good. That took me like a month to get that. It's like,
your guys' group, the Simeon Knights group, definitely carried like an energy that was really super positive. It attracted, the artists and the movers. It really did, and I was super impressed with you guys. Not only I was really impressed. One thing that really stuck out to me was your sort of method. I liked how everybody was like very conscious about the way that they were training. There was a lot of just thought, like careful, meticulous thought in terms of minimizing risk, which I found very impressive for a group of 20-year-old guys. I was like, wow. I was like, that's awesome. They're not like just reckless and like, man, my knee's thrashed, but I'm just gonna like take a few like ibuprofen and just keep training. Like you guys were like super disciplined. And so essentially the decision to continue training with you guys was like, these are people that I want my children to be around. Like I want my boys to grow up like these guys, and to be, taking care of their bodies, to be surrounded by, people that are positive, that are genuinely kind and warm. So yeah, I mean, I'm so glad like we we started training with you guys back then. You know, I was like,
so cool.
I was like, I don't know, 7 years ago. Yeah, it was about 7 years ago. Yeah, because it might be longer actually, but yeah. And when I think back on that, I'm like, thank God we did that. You know, thank goodness. Like how I could never have like even like imagined that we were going to open a parkour gym. If anyone had told us, you know, you're going to open a parkour gym with these guys, I would have been like, I would have laughed. I'm like, no, you can't be serious. Like I would have never even thought that. But it's funny, you know, but that's the power of community. You know, the people that you meet shapes your destiny, you know, shapes, you know, what's your life's going to be. But when you find your people, sort of the sky's the limit what could happen.
Yeah.
You know?
And also it's like you're willing to sacrifice like your potential if you find the right people.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I don't care. These people are awesome.
Yeah.
Like what are we doing? Like as long as like, it really comes down to like, hey, as long as I'm with these people, you know, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Because we've gone this far together.
Exactly.
And it's super cool.
Yeah. My heart is like, oh. It's like, oh man. Yeah. Reminiscing.
Yeah, it's fun to reflect back on those days.
Yeah.
And,
it is.
And doing a jam, this like Joe and Corey are trying to get like outside jams going again.
Yeah.
And it totally like it's bringing a lot of that back.
Yeah,
and I was like,
that's
oh
good,
man, you're like getting excited and like.
I went to the one 12 Bridges like last month, and I love 12 Bridges. I love that spot. Yeah.
Did you see that sign that's like a good day to be a Titan?
No, I didn't see that.
One of those schools, I don't know if I think it's 12 Bridges, because like their mascot's like a Titan.
Oh, okay.
And their sign says it's good. Is it a good day to be a Titan? And the exclamation point's all messed up because the digital sign isn't quite right there, and it looks like a question mark. So it's like good day to be a Titan, and it's a very like self-conscious, you know, doubtful motto that they have. They're very self-analysis Titans. Well, it's an hour and 16 minutes right there.
Oh, wow. All right.
Pretty good.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? Any way to wrap this up, you think? I think we did pretty good.
Gosh, I think we did good.
Yeah. I think we smacked that pretty good.
We smacked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on the show, John. So
thanks for being pumped about the podcast.
I'm super pumped about it. I think it's been great.
Yeah. So when I first said I was doing this is good. This is a great note to end on. When I first said I wanted to do this project, and you sent me like a Facebook Messenger of just like a bulleted list of like everything you wanted to talk about. And, like you could at least do one show like on each one of these topics, and it was like 11 things. And I'm like, awesome.
Yeah.
So it's like
to many more to come. You know?
Yeah. So
All right.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Go out, move, check us out online. We're everywhere and stuff. If they want to check out any of the Media Academy stuff, I saw we got some cool videos of that on YouTube.
Yeah, we have YouTube. You can shoot us an email and request to be on the newsletter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's super good.
Yeah, our email is freeflowacademy@gmail.com. You can also just go to our website and kind of browse around and poke around. There's so many, like, I guess, rabbit holes of information because we have our blog, we have a lot of different things. We have a lot of content out there, so you know. But like the big one we're updating a lot. We're pretty active on Facebook. Got a lot of stuff. Facebook, Instagram, and our blog. Like I post articles all the time on our blog just to sort of like help our clients. You know, just with different things. You know, whether it's books to read or how to take care of your calluses, just like random
That's
stuff.
That's a pretty iconic one.
Yeah, just random stuff like that, or how we clean the gym. And I had that come up today. Like, actually, like Matt, sent me this long text. Hey, I just wanted to know. Like, we have some parents wondering how we sanitize stuff, and I'm like, it's all published on the blog. It's on the new member orientation, and
excellent.
People were all worried about this and that, and people get. So if you've listened to this hour and 20-minute podcast and you're still looking for something, you can go check out our blog. Yes, that probably has over how many posts, you think? hundreds.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
That's a good rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's a good rabbit hole. Yeah, and you can access it through the About Us section on the website. It doesn't have all of our blogs just right there, but it's kind of like the most pertinent ones, like Meet the Trainers, our new member orientation, our class descriptions, basically the most like relevant things that you would want to know right away. And then from there, you hit any of those links, it's a never-ending rabbit hole. You can read for hours and hours.
And what is it? Just like Free Flow Blogspot or like
freeflowacademy.blogspot.com.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there actually a link from our website to that spot?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the About Us section.
Oh, okay.
So the About Us section has the class descriptions and the Meet the Trainers and the new member orientation. And so if they click on those links,
you automatically get
it takes you to the blog.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then you see all the different articles from. I started the blog in 2014, so it's 4 years in the making. So
solid.
Yeah.
Well, here we go.
Yes.
That's the end.
All right.
Okay, goodbye, everybody.
All right. See you later. Thanks, John.
Yeah.